Do not let anybody ever tell you that you're perfect the way you are, and that includes yourself. We need an attitude that knows that we're not that great, because otherwise we get full of ourselves. It's only when we recognize our inferiority that we are inspired to do better. It's only when we can look up and say, I can do better than what I'm down here at the moment, that we actually can go further. Generally, this is called humility, and we need to remind ourselves of our truthful position daily. We also need to actually start doing though, because just sitting around recognizing how poor we are, how small we are, without actually doing anything really easily turns into a pity party. Making sure in that we have a good beginning and a good end to each day is very important, because it tells our mind, our body and our spirit that we're actually doing something today. See, when we start our day, it's like a signal. It's not just that you've achieved getting up for the day and doing so, starting. It's like a signal to all of our being, to our mind, body and spirit, that we're actually going to do something today. And transforming and changing is a main part of growing as a person. So when we start our day, we start our growing. But the opposite is also true. When we don't start, when we don't go forward, sitting still just slowly kills us, just slowly grinds us down. I'd ask a question. What is the difference between a man in a prison cell and a man who is unchanging, who doesn't grow and doesn't try to go forward and improve himself? The man in the prison cell, he'll get out eventually, or he might escape. He's got hope. But the man who's stuck doing the same thing over and over, making the same mistakes over and over, who doesn't change, doesn't improve, well, he's trapped, isn't he? He's got no real hope. So when we look around and see things we don't like, we ask the question, why? Now we need to dig a little deeper. It's not enough to have in our head a vague idea of why things went wrong. Imagine that massive armoured orc on the hill again. We can't just vaguely glance in his direction and hope to beat him one day eventually. We need to clearly identify what is the problems. What exactly? You look at that orc, you identify, he's got massive armor, he's monstrously strong, his attitude, that giant big ass chopper. You identify what exactly you need to overcome. And the same applies to any problem in our life. You've got to ask yourselves what exactly happened and properly define it, not just in your head. We spent an exercise, you spend 5 minutes, you'll recognize roughly what went wrong. But we very easily and quickly forget. So we need to really properly define it. My recommendation is get a pen and paper, write it down. Write down what exactly happened. Write down why it happened. Honesty is important in that. It's too easy to lay blame without actually thinking. Lastly, and most importantly, what do you wish happened instead? See, a lot of times we'll do something like, I'm fat, I'm overweight, and we'll mark that down, and then we'll put our goal just as generally, I wish I lost some weight. Well, that isn't really precisely defining what is the problem, how did it happen, and where do you want to be. Right? So you want to start off, say, I'm just going to use the analogy of fat, but it can apply to literally anything in life. You want to define, how heavy are you? How heavy should you be? Right? What is the actual definition of you being fat? Where are you actually at? Some people are fat, but they can still run and do push-ups and run around and do stuff. Others are just obese and can't move. Right? You have to define exactly what you are, where you're at. Then you need to define how exactly you got there. In general, you can say with fat it's overeating. But what are you eating that's causing the problem? You know what I mean? You've got to get specific. You've got to identify exactly what you're doing wrong. Then you've got to identify where exactly you want to be. You see, if all your goal was to just lose all the weight, in theory you could starve yourself for a month and you could go from 120 kilo to 70 kilo, you've lost weight. But we all know that's not a realistic goal. And we also know it's not even a good goal. So you've got to actually define where exactly you want to be. So like for myself, I want to be at 90 kilos with me regularly working out, doing weights. That's the goal that I have for me. So what is your actual goal? What do you actually want to achieve? What is your end point? Right? And you can apply those principles to literally anything. It can be, why did you hire that idiot? Or it can be, why did the car catch fire? Or you got angry, or you got drunk, or the parrot escaped its cage. You can really put it on anything. So get your pen and paper out, write down carefully what exactly happened, why did it happen, and what do you want to see happen in the end? What is your end goal? So write it down and be honest.